The office was dimly lit, the silence punctuated only by the occasional flicker of the city lights beyond the glass panels. Taehyung sat at his desk, a single hand resting against his temple, eyes locked on the document before him, the list of invitees attending Victor Langford's private event. Across from him, Sira stood, arms crossed, studying the blueprints. Tae's secret team had secured a detailed sketch of the premises, including Victor's office. "There's one weak link," Tae murmured, his voice edged with calculation. "K1E's key personnel. He's willing to help after I made him an offer he couldn't refuse." Sira raised a brow, waiting. "But it's limited," Tae continued. "He can't help us get inside. Too much risk on his end. He's only giving us access to the system, password cracking, that's it." Taehyung's fingers drummed absently against the desk. "That still doesn't solve how we get in." Sira hummed thoughtfully, scrolling through her laptop. "It's private, strictly invitation only." Taehyung leaned forward, eyes scanning the list of invitees. His gaze halted Sira. "Sira caught it too. You know her?" Tae exhaled. "Yeah." Sira tilted her head. "Who is she?" He didn't look up. "Ex-fiancé, and a close family friend." Sira raised a brow. "Interesting. She owns the restaurant catering for the event," Tae added, picking up his phone. The line rang twice before a smooth voice filtered through. "Taehyung?" "Sarah," Tae greeted, his tone calm but edged with purpose. She chuckled lightly. "Didn't expect a call from you. What's this about?" "I need you to take someone with you to Victor's party." A pause, then Sarah's voice sharpened slightly. "Why?" Tae sighed, rubbing his temple. "Just trust me on this." Another pause. "Trust you after all these years? Tae, don't play with me, tell me why." His jaw tightened slightly. "I can't reveal everything, but I need your help." Sarah exhaled. "I know this party isn't just business. It's Victor's way of keeping his people happy. Wine, entertainment, no cameras, and you want someone inside." Tae remained silent. Sarah scoffed. "You never get involved in things like this. What are you really after?" Taehyung finally spoke, voice low, firm. "Something I need to settle, Sarah, and I don't have time for more questions." She inhaled deeply, weighing her choices. "If I do this, I want to know it won't come back to bite me later." "It won't," Tae assured. Silence. Then Sarah sighed. "Fine, but I hope you know what you're doing." Tae nodded. "I do." And the call ended. Taehyung leaned back, watching Sira as she slid a sheet toward him, a list of items needed for the operation. Tae skimmed through it quickly. "What's this?" he asked, skepticism clear in his tone. Sira crossed her arms, unbothered. "That's how I become the trap Victor slips into." Tae shook his head, still unconvinced. "I'll handle it," she assured, "but cracking his system isn't my part." Tae nodded slowly. "The guy will give me access. I'll be right outside, you just need to keep him away." She met his gaze steadily. "Consider it done." Taehyung studied her, something lingering in his expression. "Have you done this kind of operation before?" Sira smiled, quiet, unreadable. Tae understood. "And why did you leave such an employer then?" Her eyes flickered, distant for a moment before she spoke. "The man knew how to play power games," she said slowly. "He knew how to silence people, how to make them useful in ways that weren't written in contracts." Tae's fingers curled slightly against the desk. "He put you in someone's hands?" Tae asked carefully. Sira let out a small breath. "Almost." Tae remained silent. "He asked me to smooth things over with a client, a partner who was causing problems. He wanted me to be the leverage, the bargaining chip." Taehyung's expression darkened. "And I refused. He didn't take it well." She exhaled. "We had an ugly fight. I slapped him." Tae coughed slightly, leaning back. Sira smirked. "He blacklisted me, made sure I couldn't get a job anywhere. The industry is small, sir. One phone call, and suddenly doors don't open anymore." She paused before adding, "So I left." Tae's brows lifted slightly. "Where?" "Brisbane." Taehyung nodded slowly, absorbing it. Then his gaze sharpened. "Then how do you trust me in this? What guarantee do you have that I won't do the same?" Sira's lips curled slightly, gaze unwavering. Those eyes, she murmured. Tae stiffened faintly. They don't look cruel, they don't look unempathetic. For a second, he held her stare. Then, he quickly averted his gaze. Sira leaned back, watching him, and Jungkook is also the reason I trust you, sir. Tae's brow lifted slightly, but he said nothing. Sira smirked lightly. You do so much for him selflessly, you love him, and Jungkook, he wouldn't choose a wrong partner for himself. A slow breath escaped Tae before he pushed himself to his feet. That's enough, he muttered. I'll drop you off. Sira grinned, standing as well. Tae checked his watch, grabbed his blazer, and moved toward the door. She followed, still smiling. City lights streaked past, blurring against the tinted windows as Taehyung steered the car forward. Beside him, Sira sat in quiet thought, arms folded, gaze fixed on the passing skyline. Then his phone vibrated against the dashboard. A familiar name flashed across the screen. Rue. Sira's eyes flickered toward it briefly before looking away, giving him space. Taehyung inhaled, swiping the call. Baby. Jungkook's voice came through, soft but knowing. Dinner is cancelled, isn't it, Tae? Taehyung bit his lip, a sharp exhale leaving him as realization hit. Their plan, the restaurant, the time he had promised. Baby, Jungkook cut in, gentle, warm. It's all right. The ease in Jungkook's tone made Taehyung pause, his grip on the steering wheel shifting. I'm on my way, Tae murmured, adjusting his speed. Jungkook chuckled lightly. I've already made dinner. Taehyung blinked, the weight pressing against his chest loosening slightly. Jungkook sounded happy. After everything tonight that mattered. Sira said nothing, only glanced at him briefly before turning back to the window, sensing the shift in his mood. Taehyung pulled up in front of Sira's place, the car slowing to a halt. She unbuckled her seatbelt, glancing at him once more. We'll execute the plan perfectly, sir, she said, voice calm, reassuring. Taehyung nodded once. I know. She smiled faintly before stepping out, disappearing into the building. Taehyung watched her go for a beat, then shifted gears home. The door barely shut before Jungkook appeared, a soft glow of warmth in his eyes, barefoot, sweater loose around his shoulders. Taehyung took one look at him, exhaled deeply, then walked forward, wrapping an arm around his waist, pulling him close. I'm sorry, Tae murmured, pressing a lingering kiss against Jungkook's temple. Jungkook leaned into him, hands resting lightly against Tae's chest. No need. Taehyung inhaled the familiar scent of lavender and faint vanilla, something calming, something that belonged to Jungkook alone. What did you make? Tae asked, voice softer now. Jungkook smiled, slipping a hand into his. Come and see. Taehyung followed, letting himself be led toward the dining table, warm food waiting, carefully set, as if Jungkook had prepared everything without doubt that Tae would come home. For a moment, Taehyung forgot about the world outside, forgot about corporate wars, schemes, strategic plays, because this was his peace. Jungkook. As Taehyung slipped into the room to change, Jungkook stood quietly, watching him, a rare calmness settling in his chest. Thanks, Dr. Yoonji, he murmured under his breath, recalling their conversation from earlier. Tonight, just tonight, he allowed himself to breathe. Dreaming? Jungkook blinked, snapping out of his thoughts as Taehyung's voice melted into his ears, low and knowing. Before he could answer, Tae took his hand, pulling him toward the couch, settling beside him with a quiet presence. How are you feeling, Rue? Jungkook barely reacted, only watching as Taehyung's gaze flickered over his face, lingering at the silver ring piercing his lip. What are you asking me like I'm sick? Jungkook muttered, eyebrow quirking. Taehyung's thumb brushed lightly over the corner of Jungkook's lips, almost absent-mindedly. You didn't seem fine this morning. I'm okay, Tae. Taehyung didn't seem convinced. Are you sure? We don't need a doctor, Rue? A chuckle escaped Jungkook, warm but teasing. Tae, I'm fine. I'm not pregnant that you have to assist me to a doctor. Taehyung froze for a second, then giggled. I wish you were. His voice was low, amused. I wouldn't let you away from me even for an hour. Something shifted in Jungkook's eyes, irritation, the sting of something buried deep. That same thought, that same doubt, the same unspoken truth that he wasn't enough for Taehyung. And before he could stop himself, is that something I should be concerned about that I can't be? Taehyung's brows twitched slightly, surprised. But before he could respond, Jungkook's phone rang. Tae glanced at the screen. Minji. Missed calls to many of them. It rang again, and Tae watched. Rue, he murmured, she's been calling, pick it up and talk. Jungkook exhaled sharply, standing up instead. Can we have dinner, Taehyung Nathaniel? Taehyung's gaze lingered for a beat before he followed, slipping onto Jungkook's lap as he plated the food. Jungkook didn't mind. Tae sat comfortably, a natural weight against him. Rue, I suggest you talk to her. Jungkook looked at him, eyes sharp but calm. Traitors have no place in my life, Tae. His voice was final. Now, shall we eat? Taehyung hummed, letting it go for now. But as he moved to get up from Jungkook's lap, Jungkook held him there. Taehyung stilled, sinking back, eyes locked with his ruse. Something passed between them, wordless, unshaken, deep. Then Taehyung leaned in, picking Jungkook's lips into his mouth, slow, deliberate, melting against him. Taehyung adjusted the cuffs of his suit, brushing a hand through his hair as he glanced at the clock. Behind him, Jungkook remained seated at his desk, focused on the screen, his fingers moving steadily over the keyboard as the sleek framework of a concept vehicle took form. Noticing Tae dressed up, Jungkook's gaze flickered toward him. Where are you heading this late? Taehyung straightened his watch, keeping his tone even. An official party. Jungkook hummed, his expression unreadable, before returning his focus to his CAD model. Taehyung lingered for a brief second, scanning the details on the screen: chassis structure, aerodynamic refinements, precision engineering. What's this? He asked, stepping closer, eyes tracing the sleek contours of the rendered automobile. Jungkook glanced up briefly, just working on some designs. Taehyung hummed, intrigued, watching as Jungkook adjusted precision details, refining the aerodynamics. I thought you weren't taking up any projects right now, Tae mused. Jungkook exhaled lightly, leaning back in his chair. I wasn't. He turned slightly, meeting Tae's gaze. But once we get the marriage certificate, I'll take up a job. Taehyung inhaled deeply, something settling within him. The deal with Titan, Jungkook's future. Only once the partnership was secure, only once he saw Jungkook heading the new venture himself, would he allow himself to relax. Not before. He reached out, brushing fingers through Jungkook's hair briefly. Jungkook blinked, his expression unreadable. Will you be late? Taehyung paused, meeting Jungkook's gaze. Truthfully, he didn't know. Yes, babe, he finally said, his voice softer. Don't wait up. Jungkook glanced at him, tilting his head slightly. Just don't get too caught up. Taehyung chuckled faintly, stepping toward the door. I'll try. Then without another word he left. The game had begun. Taehyung leaned against his car, checking his phone, scrolling absently. Then the unmistakable click of heels against pavement. He looked up and nearly lost his breath. Sira approached, radiating a presence that wasn't just eye-catching, it was arresting. The crimson gown hugged her perfectly, its delicate sheen catching the faint glow of city lights. A daring slit revealed toned legs with every step, while diamonds glittered against her bare collarbone. Her hair, sleek and voluminous, framed her face in a way that made her nearly unrecognizable. Taehyung blinked, his grip tightening slightly around his phone. Sira, she smirked, tilting her head. Still meet sir, just upgraded for the occasion. His eyes flickered over the transformation, still processing. Sira spun slightly, the gown flowing effortlessly with her movement. Victor won't look anywhere else tonight. Tae exhaled, finally breaking his silence. We're doing this, she cut him off smoothly, sliding into the passenger seat with effortless confidence. He sighed, shutting the door behind her. Sarah should already be at the venue. Sira nodded, adjusting a bracelet. Then let's go, sir. The engine hummed low as Taehyung pulled onto the road, the city lights casting fleeting shadows across the windshield. For a moment, neither spoke. Taehyung's grip on the steering wheel was steady, but his eyes kept flickering towards Sira in stolen glances, catching the sharp contrast of her transformation. Finally, he exhaled, shaking his head slightly. You look unexpected. Sira smirked, adjusting the bracelet around her wrist. That's either a compliment or a warning. Taehyung scoffed lightly, shifting gears. His gaze flickered over the deep crimson of her gown, the way it molded against her figure like it belonged there. You are breathtaking. His voice was smooth, matter-of-fact. Sira let out a soft chuckle, her confidence unwavering. Thanks for funding my transformation, sir. It wasn't in vain. Taehyung hummed, a rare smile tugging at his lips. You make it seem like I had a choice. Sira leaned back, crossing her legs as she watched the city unfold outside the window. You always do, sir. You just choose efficiency. A pause. The air felt different, not tense, but charged. This feels surreal, doesn't it? Sira murmured, almost to herself. Taehyung inhaled deeply, his expression unreadable. It will feel real once Victor is exposed. Sira nodded once, fingers toying absently with the folds of her gown. Let's make history, sir. Taehyung tightened his jaw slightly, pressing the accelerator just a bit harder. They had arrived. The game was about to begin. Taehyung parked the van at a safe distance, far enough to avoid suspicion but close enough to maintain control. The dim glow of his laptop screen illuminated his face as he ran one final systems check: network access secured, data extraction programs ready, surveillance feeds monitored. This was it. He exhaled deeply, dialing Sarah's number. Come to the car. A pause, then Sarah's voice came through. I'm heading inside, Tae. Step out, he instructed. Sira's with me. Silence, then the sound of movement. Meanwhile, beside him, Sira took a deep breath, fastening her earpiece. Her fingers brushed over the ornate ring, a hidden capsule nestled beneath the gemstone, discreet and lethal in its purpose. Taehyung glanced at her. Are you ready? Sira nodded, adjusting her clutch. Just then a knock against the window. Taehyung rolled it down smoothly, and Sara peered inside, eyes immediately settling on Sira. Who's she? Take her with you, Taehyung said, voice firm. Tell them she's your friend, cousin, anything that keeps questions away. Sara narrowed her eyes, arms crossing. Tae, what are you up to? Just do what I said. His tone held no room for argument. Sara exhaled sharply, gaze flickering between them, then her shoulders straightened, composure settling in. What happens after? Taehyung's fingers tapped against the laptop edge. Sira knows what she has to do. Leave her alone once inside. Don't interfere. When she signals, take her out. Sara studied Sira for a beat longer before nodding. Fine. Taehyung turned to Sira now, voice softer yet firm. Anytime you feel unsafe, pull out. Abort. Your safety is priority too. Sira met his gaze, then nodded, stepping out of the van. As she disappeared into the night with Sara, Taehyung leaned back, watching through the live security feed on his laptop, the internal servers of Victor's estate already mapped, waiting for access. He swiped his phone, dialing K1E's key personnel, voice precise. Everything set? A pause, then confirmation. Taehyung exhaled. He glanced toward the towering estate, its lavish exterior hiding what they had come for. Sara led Sira inside, their heels clicking against the marble floor as they stepped into the lavish space, crystal chandeliers, soft jazz, murmurs of power every corner held high net worth individuals indulging in excess. Sira scanned the room, expression poised yet alert, then Victor. Her heart drummed against her ribs, steady yet heavy. Sara moved away, blending effortlessly into the crowd. Sira exhaled, fingers brushing discreetly against her earpiece. Sir, I'm heading to Victor. In the parked van outside, Taehyung's fingers curled around the steering wheel, pulse ticking against his wrist. Victor Langford turned, and for a split second his gaze stalled. Sira knew that look, the slow, deliberate scan of a man who believed the world belonged to him. Party pulsed with wealth and indulgence, a carefully curated world where power thrived behind locked doors. Sarah navigated through the room effortlessly, a practiced ease in her movements as she led Sarah deeper into the crowd. Victor Langford was at the heart of it all, reclining by the bar, a drink lazily swirling in his hand, surrounded by men who whispered of money, politics, and deception. The moment Sarah approached, his gaze flickered over calculating, aware. She smiled smoothly. "Victor," she greeted, voice light but measured. Victor lifted his glass slightly in acknowledgement, his eyes sweeping over her companion. "New face," Victor murmured, stepping closer, voice velvety. "Who let someone as stunning as you stay in the background?" Sarah gestured towards Sarah, tone effortless. "A dear friend," she said. "We go way back." Victor leaned in slightly, studying Sarah with an undisguised intrigue. Sarah held his gaze poised, unreadable. "Pleasure to meet you," Victor hummed, nodding slightly. "Interesting choice of company for tonight, Sarah." Sarah smirked. "Well, Victor, you do throw the kind of parties that attract all sorts, don't you?" Victor chuckled, swirling his drink once more. "That I do." Then his gaze lingered. Sarah could feel it, the silent, drawn-out interest, the unspoken calculation. "Perfect." She tilted her head slightly, offering a smile that held just enough intrigue. Victor's lips curled. "Join me for a drink?" The atmosphere had shifted. The polished air of business formality had cracked into something decadent, something indulgent. Sarah glanced around, keeping her posture composed, her movements graceful. Men leaned against plush couches, women whispered behind jeweled glasses, and somewhere in the corner powder, pills, and reckless choices exchanged hands. Victor Langford, however, had eyes only for her. Victor swirled the whiskey in his glass, watching her like a man hunting, testing the moment before the strike. "You seem restrained," he mused, stepping closer. Sarah met his gaze effortlessly, tilting her head. "Should I not be?" Victor chuckled, low, amused. "That depends. Most people loosen up around me." Through the earpiece, Taehyung's voice filtered in, sharp, firm. "Don't trust him." Sarah heard him, but her smile remained untouched. She took the glass Victor offered, holding it, never drinking. Victor leaned in slightly, tone dipping lower. "Sarah bringing you here, intriguing." Sarah let out a soft chuckle. "You call every woman intriguing, Mr. Langford?" Victor smirked, watching her lips. "Only the ones worth my time." In the van outside, Taehyung's fingers drummed against the dashboard. Victor was fixated. Taehyung could tell by his voice the unwavering focus. Patience, greed, impulse. Victor wanted control. Sarah took a slow inhale, shifting just slightly as she scanned the room. A group in the corner, powder lined across a mirrored tray, laughter curling around lips slick with wine. Elsewhere, two bodies pressed against a wall, the flush of excess humming through the air. The party had slipped into the kind of madness that made men forget caution. Victor, however, hadn't touched a single drug. His vice was different, and it was standing right in front of him. Sarah smiled faintly, adjusting the bracelet around her wrist. "I need to step away," she murmured, voice light, effortless. Victor raised a brow. "Now?" She hummed softly, fingertips grazing the chilled glass she hadn't touched. "Washroom, give me a minute." Victor set down his drink, his expression unreadable. "Use my lounge," he said smoothly, motioning toward the grand staircase leading into the private quarters of the estate. Sarah exhaled lightly. "Perfect." She nodded once, moving forward, feeling the weight of Victor's presence right behind her. Victor closed the door behind them with an air of certainty, his presence towering, laced with a quiet hunger. Sarah exhaled smoothly, pacing just slightly, her fingers brushing over the polished edge of the bar. "You don't strike me as the type to need introductions," Victor mused, pouring himself another drink. Sarah's lips curled slightly. "And you don't strike me as the type to need an invitation." Victor chuckled lowly, leaning back against the velvet armchair, watching her with an unshaken focus. Sarah hummed softly, eyes flickering toward Victor's fingers wrapped around the crystal glass. She waited, patient, calculating. Then, with the smallest flick of her hand, the capsule slipped into his drink unnoticed. Seconds stretched, Victor sipped, Sierra counted. Victor blinked once, then again. He let out a slow exhale, shifting slightly, adjusting his collar like the heat in the room had changed. Sierra kept her composure, watching as his grip on his glass loosened ever so slightly. "You look different up close," Victor murmured, his voice just a fraction slower. Sierra tilted her head. "Good or bad?" Victor smirked faintly. "Dangerous." She chuckled softly, shifting closer. "You should get used to that feeling." Victor hummed, but the blur in his gaze deepened. Then, he frowned briefly, muttering, "I'll be back." He stood less steady than before and disappeared into the washroom. Sierra stiffened. "Not ideal, sir," she murmured into her earpiece. "He's moving." Taehyung's voice sharpened slightly. "Stay where you are. Watch for the exit." Victor returned, smirk in place, but his balance betrayed him. He reached for Sierra, fingers barely grazing her wrist before his knees buckled and his body fell onto the bed. Sierra wasted no time. She checked his pulse steady, deep in exhaustion, completely out. "Sir," she whispered, "he's off." "His phone, find it." Sierra scanned the room quickly, finding the sleek black device resting near his jacket. She picked it up just as the door opened. K1E's insider stepped in. Wordlessly, Sierra handed over the phone. He nodded, moving swiftly toward the desk, plugging in a small, encrypted data chip. The device hummed softly, files extracting, transferring onto secured storage. Outside, Taehyung watched the process through his laptop, every frame of the system mirroring on his screen. Company transactions, insider trading, then something deeper, a hidden folder. Connection to banned drug operations illegal under the law, running silently under K1 Technologies. Taehyung inhaled sharply, fingers tightening against the edge of the van's console. This wasn't just fraud, this was a criminal empire. Minutes later, the insider handed the phone back. Sierra wiped it clean, placing it exactly where it had been. Taehyung's voice was sharper now. "Move, now." But Sierra was still busy. "Sir, a moment." Taehyung narrowed his eyes. "What are you doing, Sierra? Get out." She exhaled lightly, undoing Victor's shirt slightly, adjusting his cufflinks, shifting his body to make the scene believable. "Sir," she murmured, "tomorrow, he can't suspect he was trapped. He needs to believe he had a moment with me." "Sierra, damn it, just get out." Sierra smirked, glancing at Victor's unconscious frame. "Goodbye, Victor," she whispered, before slipping out of the room. She moved effortlessly, blending into the crowd, gliding past whispers of indulgence. Sarah spotted her, without a word, leading her toward the exit. Outside, Taehyung watched through the van's rear camera, Sierra stepping out, untouched, victorious. Sierra inched towards Tae, her adrenaline still surging, unable to contain her excitement. She giggled, practically bouncing on her heels. "We did it, sir. We got it." Taehyung, equally relieved, let out a breath of laughter. Then, in the rush of emotions, Sierra lunged forward, throwing her arms around him in a spontaneous hug. Caught off guard, Tae hesitated briefly before returning it, his grip firm, lifting her slightly off the ground. Behind them, Sarah stepped out of the venue, watching with curiosity as the scene unfolded. A slow smirk curled at her lips as she casually raised her phone click. She didn't say a word, simply pocketing her device and walking ahead. "Tae," she called over her shoulder, "are you going to tell me what this is all about now?" Sierra quickly pulled away, smoothing her dress, sensing Sarah's suspicion. Tae chuckled, spinning Sarah slightly by the wrist, holding her hand for just a second. "I can't disclose her, Sarah, but truly thank you." Sarah tilted her head, eyes narrowing. "You're impossible." "I try," he teased. She sighed but didn't press further. "I'm glad I was of any help." Sarah checked the time. "Sir, it's late." Taehyung nodded. "I'll drop you home." He turned to Sarah, who simply waved a hand. "I'll manage, you two go ahead." Tae nodded, opening the car door for Sierra, who slid in without hesitation. Taehyung didn't speak for a moment, only scanned her carefully, ensuring she was safe. Then, The chip? Sierra pulled it from her bracelet, handing it over. She let out a breathless laugh. We did it. Taehyung exhaled, gripping the steering wheel, heart still racing. Partners in crime. The drive was quiet, tension unraveling into lingering satisfaction. Once parked, Tae glanced at Sierra. Her smile hadn't faded. He smirked slightly. We did it really. Sierra nodded. Not yet, sir. Now comes the final play, leaking it. Taehyung exhaled, nodding more to himself. Sierra stepped out, adjusting the oversized blazer draped over her shoulders. Taehyung frowned slightly. That's mine. She paused, tugging it closer. Can I keep it? He nodded without hesitation. Sierra smiled, taking a few steps back. Then, Sierra. She turned as Taehyung approached, standing close, eyes unreadable. And then he hugged her. A quiet, deep embrace, not rushed, not fleeting, just something meaningful. She smiled softly. Thank you, Sierra. No one else would have done what you did. He withdrew slightly. Ask me anything, you deserve it. She hesitated. Can I really? Taehyung nodded, reassuring. She bit her lip, thoughtful. Would you feel I'm greedy or taking advantage of this? He shook his head firmly. Never. Just tell me. She exhaled, pulling out her phone, her fingers tapping the screen before turning it toward him. A house. Taehyung blinked. The house? She nodded slowly. It was my dad's, after him. My stepmother sold it. It's the only thing left of him. She looked away. It costs a. Consider it done. She inhaled sharply, eyes darting to him. You're getting your house back, Sierra Caldwell. Her lips parted slightly, breath hitching. Then, thank you, sir. She turned, sprinting toward her apartment, unable to contain the rush of emotions. Taehyung lingered, watching her disappear inside before finally stepping into his car. If only he knew Sarah had it all recorded. Taehyung gripped the steering wheel, his fingers tightening with adrenaline as the weight of their success settled in. His breath was uneven, not from exhaustion, but exhilaration. Yes, 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 he muttered under his breath, a grin pulling at his lips. I did it, Rue. Damn, I'd do anything for you, my love, anything. For the first time in days, the fire inside him wasn't rage, it was joy. He felt it, real, raw happiness surging from somewhere deep, undeniable. Soon, very soon, he'd see Jungkook exactly where he deserved to be, at the helm of Titan Motors. And nothing would stop that from happening. The car pulled into the driveway, tires rolling to a smooth stop. Tae barely hesitated. He stepped out, swinging the door shut behind him and moving fast. Every part of him was wired, buzzing, alive. His feet carried him straight to his bedroom, the familiar space flooding him with warmth the second he stepped in. And there he was, Jungkook, fast asleep, curled into the sheets, his breathing slow, steady, unaware of the war Tae had just won for him. Taehyung exhaled, something soft settling in his chest. He slipped beside him, his arms wrapping around Jungkook's frame, pulling him close to close. His lips barely brushed against his hair as he murmured, I did it, Rue, just a bit more. I'll give you the happiest news ever. Jungkook stirred faintly against him, but didn't wake. Tae smiled against his skin, his grip tightening, warmth flooding through him. This was worth everything. Taehyung tightened his hold, his arms wrapping protectively around Jungkook's frame. You've completely consumed me, Rue. His voice was barely above a whisper, slipping into the quiet of the room. I'm utterly in love with you, baby. Jungkook stirred just slightly, his breath coming slow, measured, almost to still. Tae brushed his fingers along his arm, feeling the warmth of his skin, the faint rise and fall of his chest. He was deep asleep, deeper than usual. His head rested against Tae's arm, unnaturally heavy, unmoving despite Tae's shifting against the pillows. But Taehyung barely noticed, his mind occupied with the victory still buzzing in his veins. Soon, he would tell Jungkook everything. Soon, he would give him the happiness he deserved. And for now, this was enough. Jungkook lay sprawled across the pillows, eyes heavy with sleep, his body melting into the soft fabric, refusing the pull of morning. Beside him, Taehyung sat cross-legged, fingers lazily threading through Jungkook's dark strands, dipping into warm oil, rubbing it between his palms before working it into his scalp. You sleep too much, Rue, Tae murmured, amusement coating his voice. Jungkook hummed, barely cracking open his eyes. It's the weekend, you should let me sleep. Taehyung chuckled, leaning down, pressing a lingering kiss against his temple. I am letting you sleep, I'm just spoiling you while you do. Jungkook sighed, the slow circles of Taehyung's fingertips pulling him deeper into warmth. This feels good, Jungkook admitted, voice raspy from sleep. I know, Taehyung smirked, fingers still working into his scalp. You'd look even better if you sat up. Jungkook groaned, refusing to budge. You wanted me to sleep, and now I want you awake. Tae tugged gently at his hair, earning a muffled whine. Jungkook exhaled, shifting slightly, his cheek pressed against Taehyung's thigh as he finally blinked awake. Then his brows furrowed slightly. When did you come back last night? Taehyung paused, a smirk tugging at his lips. Late, Jungkook hummed, watching him through sleep-laden eyes. How late? Taehyung exhaled dramatically, hands still moving over his scalp. Late enough that I shouldn't be this energetic right now. Jungkook huffed a small laugh, shaking his head against Tae's leg. That explains the clinginess. Taehyung grinned. Missed you, baby. Jungkook exhaled deeply, letting his eyes flutter shut again. Fine, spoil me more. And Taehyung did. The warm water wrapped around them, steam rising gently, carrying the scent of lavender through the dimly lit space. Jungkook lay back against Taehyung's chest, his body molding effortlessly into the familiar warmth, head resting just beneath the curve of Tae's neck. His fingers skimmed absently along the ridge of Tae's arm, tracing slow, lazy patterns. You never liked tub baths, Jungkook murmured, voice dreamlike. Taehyung hummed, lips brushing the damp strands of Jungkook's hair. I do, he murmured, his voice like a slow burn against Jungkook's ear, only when you're in them. Jungkook chuckled, lifting his hand slightly, letting bubbles slip between his fingers. Lucky me then. Tae smirked, tightening his arms around Jungkook's waist. Lucky me. A comfortable silence settled between them, broken only by the soft hum of water lapping against skin. Then Jungkook spoke again, voice quieter now. I think we should escape after the wedding. Taehyung leaned back slightly, running slow fingers through Jungkook's damp hair. Escape? Jungkook exhaled, his thumb brushing softly against Tae's wrist beneath the water. Just disappear for a while, somewhere quiet, somewhere just ours. Taehyung's lips pressed against Jungkook's shoulder, lingering there. Anywhere you want, baby. Jungkook sighed softly, pressing closer, completely sinking into the warmth, into him. The bathroom door creaked open, steam curling gently into the cooler air beyond. Taehyung stepped out first, toweling off his damp hair, watching as Jungkook trailed after him, water droplets clinging to his collarbone before sinking into the fabric of his robe. Jungkook stretched lazily, eyes half-lidded as he pulled the edge of the robe tighter around his waist. Don't look at me like that, he murmured, catching Tae's lingering gaze. Taehyung smirked, tossing his towel aside. Like what? Jungkook rolled his eyes, stepping closer. Like you have no plans to let me get dressed. Taehyung hummed, wrapping his arms loosely around Jungkook's waist, fingers grazing over the silk tie of his robe. I make no promises, Tae murmured against Jungkook's temple. Jungkook chuckled softly, leaning into the hold for a moment before sighing. We need to get dressed. You need to get dressed, Tae teased. I just need 5 more minutes of this. Jungkook huffed a small laugh, shaking his head before gently untangling himself and heading toward the dresser. Minutes later, dressed and settled in the living room, the romance lingered in the air, but the conversation shifted. Taehyung sat cross-legged on the couch, stacks of wedding card samples sprawled across the table. Jungkook sat on the floor, barefoot, comfortable, flipping lazily through design options. This one's too fancy, Jungkook muttered, setting aside a sleek gold-trimmed card. Too fancy, Tae frowned. It's a wedding, baby. Our wedding, Jungkook corrected, tossing him a pointed look, which means I have to like it too. Taehyung huffed, flipping through the pile again before picking up a deep blue design, its elegant lettering embossed with silver. How about this? Jungkook studied it, fingers tracing the smooth letters. Jian Jungkook and Taehyung Nathaniel. For a second, the world quieted. Their names together, final, real, permanent. Jungkook's chest warmed, his fingers lingering over the print. I like this, Jungkook admitted, voice softer now. Taehyung smiled, leaning forward, brushing a feather-light touch over Jungkook's wrist. Then it's ours. Taehyung's phone buzzed against the tabletop, the soft vibration breaking the morning stillness. He reached for it absently, scrolling through unread messages, eyes flickering over updates from his most trusted personnel. The plan was set, the proof was undeniable. His fingers moved swiftly, sending an encrypted response, a precise directive on how to leak the evidence against K1 without suspicion. Only once he hit send did he lean back, exhaling deeply. The war was moving forward, but this moment, this morning, belonged to something else. Jungkook sat between Tae's legs, flipping through wedding outfit inspirations on his phone. Taehyung, still half distracted, wrapped his arms lazily around Jungkook's waist, resting his chin against his shoulder. You're barely paying attention, Jungkook murmured, swiping lazily at the screen. I'm paying attention, Tae argued, squeezing him closer, lips brushing against the side of his neck. I just like holding you more. Jungkook rolled his eyes, but he didn't push him away. Typical. Taehyung smirked. Want to know what else is typical? Jungkook hummed, barely glancing up. Taehyung leaned closer, breath warm against his ear. You blushing right now? Jungkook scoffed, shoving Tae's face away, but his lips betrayed him with a smile. Taehyung laughed, pulling him right back, pressing a lingering kiss against his cheek. I'll choose whatever outfit you love, Tae whispered against his skin. Jungkook softened, letting himself sink further against him. Then you'll look perfect. Taehyung exhaled, tightening his hold. We'll look perfect. Taehyung stretched lazily, arms looping around Jungkook's waist from behind, chin resting against his shoulder. Let's cook, he murmured. Jungkook frowned, swiping through his phone. We could just order. Tae tightened his hold, teasing, Rue, I'm not going to spend another weekend surviving on takeout. Jungkook sighed dramatically, but leaned back into the warmth. Fine, but you're helping. I'll supervise. You mean annoy me the entire time? Taehyung grinned, pressing a soft kiss behind Jungkook's ear. Exactly. The kitchen smelled of fresh ingredients, the warmth of simmering sauces filling the air. Jungkook stood at the counter, rolling up the sleeves of Tae's oversized shirt, his favorite steal from Tae's closet. Across the island, Taehyung leaned lazily, flipping through wedding lighting inspirations on his tablet. You cook like you're hosting a disaster, Tae teased, eyeing the mess Jungkook had left behind. Jungkook huffed, flipping the spatula dramatically. Excuse me, this is artistry. Taehyung chuckled, half focused on his screen. Artistry or attempted arson? Jungkook narrowed his eyes. You're banned from tasting it. I'm still supervising, Rue, Tae mused, turning the tablet toward him. What do you think of this lighting? Jungkook glanced over briefly, stirring the pan absent-mindedly. Warm golden hues, soft flickering candles, elegant yet intimate. I like it, he admitted. Tae hummed, tilting his head. Enough candles? Jungkook scoffed. Not too many. Taehyung laughed, flicking through more designs while Jungkook continued his very controlled chaos in the kitchen. After eating, Jungkook stretched his arms above his head, satisfied. You didn't die from my cooking, he pointed out smugly. I'm impressed, Tae admitted, pushing his chair back. Not bad, baby. Jungkook smirked. That's all the praise I get. Tae grinned, leaning in, pressing a soft, lingering kiss against his cheek. I'll praise you later. Jungkook hummed, the warmth lingering before Tae tugged his wrist. Come outside. Jungkook raised a brow. What now? You'll like it, trust me. Taehyung led Jungkook into the yard, bare feet against the soft grass, fairy lights strung above, painting a golden glow across the space. Jungkook eyed him suspiciously. What exactly are we doing? Taehyung took his hand, tugging gently, dancing. Jungkook scoffed, letting Tae pull him closer. There's no music. Taehyung hummed, brushing a thumb over Jungkook's wrist. Do we need it? Jungkook sighed, his forehead resting against Tae's shoulder. Silence stretched comfortable, warm, a moment pulled from something timeless. Jungkook exhaled slowly. This is nice. Taehyung whispered against his hair. It's perfect.